Future Knight fans and Bladeguard aficionados, welcome on in, and this is Spruce and Studs, and today we're going to be taking a look at the second run of Bladeguard that have been released by JoyToy. So in the first run, obviously, we got the Black Templars, the Blood Angels, the Ultramarines, the Imperial Fists, I believe, and I can't remember if I'm missing anything. And so in this release, we have the Salamanders, the Dark Angels, as well as the White Consuls. I did not get the White Consuls one. I just got the Salamanders as well as the Dark Angel ones. So let's take a look what they are made of in this review. All right, time to bust open the Bladeguard again. Let's see what's inside. Ooh, very nice. Okay, lifting the cover. All right, folks, we have Bladeguard number 2, or Bladeguard Run number 2 is more like it. And let's take a look at what JoyToy did for improvements or drawbacks or whatnot. And as usual, we will take a look at the helmeted area first. And the first thing I'm actually going to comment on this action figure is that the overall patina of this Bladeguard Veteran for the Dark Angels is a very interesting color. It's a tan color, which is a little bit more weathered and worn from what I expect from this, but that's not a bad thing. It actually has a lot of character and a color that I really appreciate. But anyways, let's take a look at the helmeted area. So the helmeted area, you can notice that there is already a lot of shading that is in between the joints of the armor right here, especially in the vents. And you have a nice skull as well as nicely screened lenses that are metallic. We're going to take a look at the pauldron on the right-hand side. And you get this nice symbol over here with the skull right here. And then once again, you can see the shading is fairly pronounced between the, I suppose, tan/weathered ivory color to the gold areas of the pauldron. And flipping around the other side, there is a fairly nicely screened Dark Angels symbol right here. So taking a look at the chest area of this action figure, you have a heraldic shield that is sticking out very prominently in the middle. It's pretty cool that this is an inverse of each other, where you have red stripe and white skull on one side, and then white stripe and red skull on the other. And as we are looking at the icon in the middle of this action figure, it is a very dark green, and you can tell that there are highlights on the raised portion of this action figure. So we are now going to take a look at the middle portion of this action figure, and there is an amulet that is dangling down here, as well as 2 pouches. And in the center, you have a belt buckle, another pouch with an amulet attached to it, and you have a scabbard for the power sword that the Bladeguard famously wield. And as we turned around the action figure, you get to see more pronounced shading in the edges of this armor here, as well as in the recesses. And moving on to the lower section of this action figure, you have a golden skull on one knee. This knee is completely unadorned. So we're going to put the body of the action figure down and move on to the plethora of accessories that surround him. First, the accessory is the Storm Shield. And I will have to say that this is fairly different from what the first version is. The colors are very different on the second run of these guys. However, the gold is consistent with the outline as well as the center region here. You do get a bunch of skulls that are here, and they are shaded fairly nicely. And the center of the shield is clearly red. And as we flip this around, once again, it is red. You have these blue power nodes here, and then the area in which the Bladeguard is holding the shield. Taking a look at the backpack over here, it mimics the color of the action figure quite nicely. It is the same ivory or tan kind of color with the heavy bolt pistol. It clearly has red casing and gunmetal accents here. And it appears that, I'll be honest with you, that the red part kind of has like a metallic undertone as well. Take a look at the power sword. And once again, this is the power sword that we come to know and love. You got the transition from dark gunmetal all the way up to the light silver. And then we have the nice overspray with the power node, which gives it a nice, very interesting glow. And finally, we're going to take a look at this guy's face. And while this face is very sneery right here, and he's got a lot of, well, character on his face, the eyes are fairly nicely screened, and then lots of shading in the recesses, especially this scar that's running on his left cheek. And as we are looking at the hair, there is also light highlights that are on top at the highest areas, which is nice. So we're going to move on from this and take a look at the Salamanders Bladeguard Veteran real quickly. All right, we have now moved on to the Salamanders version of the Bladeguard, and we will take a look at what's going on with him once again, starting off with the helmeted area. And what I find interesting about this helmeted area is that it does have shading up here, which is nice. If you do remember the Salamanders Intercessor video that I did, the whole entire body of the Salamanders in that version was completely green with no highlights as well as shading. So it's actually really nice, to be honest, to see shading that is happening up here as well as other places from cursory first glance. And then you actually do see some highlights that are happening as well on the lighter raised areas of this action figure. But anyways, the lenses are actually of a flat yellow color. Moving on to the right pauldron, it is actually pretty decent looking in the fact that the black is where the black is supposed to be, and this is screened on fairly nicely. And as we flip around to the other side, you do get to see the Salamander's fire drake right here. And on the front, just like the Dark Angels Bladeguard Veteran, you have a heraldic shield. And this shield is fairly cool in that obviously got some flames that has a nice red to yellow transition. And as we are looking at the winged skull symbol on this action figure, you can tell there is very, very light shading in between the feathers here. And then you have a interesting looking silver skull. And we are going to migrate on to the middle section of this action figure. You have a pouch. And this is where I said that on this particular action figure, there is very pronounced yellow highlighting on the edges of the armor. And then moving on to the middle section, got a pouch, 2 amulets that are hanging down, as well as the scabbard on the left-hand side. Then flipping this area up, it is again 100% the same in that you have a skull, except that this skull is a dark gunmetal color with red recesses. We will move on to, again, the accessories that surround him, starting off with the storm shield here. And once again, the outline of this storm shield is gold, much like all the rest of the Bladeguard. However, what differentiates this guy is the silver skulls. And I will have to say that the recesses of the eyes are pretty cool in these skulls in that they are of a metallic red that stick out. What is the major deviation here is this power sword. This is the first thing I saw in the promo video. I was like, ooh, this is really cool. It's very different from every single one of the power swords that we have seen in that instead of the dark gunmetal to light silver transition, you have a yellowish orange to an orange transition that actually has silver highlights on the highest areas of this power sword, and there are more highlights on the edges as well, which is a lot different from what we have seen before. And finally, we will take a look at Mr. Salamander's face over here, and ooh, why so sad? He looks so sad. He's got kind of a frowny face that is happening here. And then he does have that awesome characteristic Salamander's eye glow, which is very cool. And you can also tell that there is even darker shading here that's in the recesses of this action figure. All right, folks, that is the review of the Dark Angels as well as the Salamanders Bladeguard. Let me wrap this one up with my final thoughts. Ah, yes. So here we have the 2 Bladeguard Veterans fully reviewed. And I will have to say, I do actually like one of them better than the other. Can you guess which one? So if you guess the Salamanders one, you are completely correct. So what is the reason why I like the Salamanders one better than the Dark Angels one? Well, it's actually the coloring on the Salamanders one is actually really cool to me. First of all, that power sword that he is wielding is super badass. I really do like the transition from the yellow to the orange with that silver highlighting that's going on with it. His storm shield is really cool looking too, with the awesome contrast in color between the black, the silver, the gold, and the red eyes. It really is cool looking in my opinion. I also do like the armor, which has a bunch of depth in it, that it has shading as well as those light yellow highlights that make the green really stand out. So looking at the Dark Angels one, I do like the ivory color as well. And the Storm Shield is also fairly cool looking too, with that red color that actually does complement the gold as well. So I may have a little biased opinion on whether you should get these two action figures or not. Obviously, the answer is yes. I do believe that you should get them. Bladeguard Veterans are very iconic in the Warhammer 40K universe, and they are a very popular unit to field in the tabletop game. Aside from the fact that the aesthetic of these future knights are so badass, that I think that you should get them for your army. So once again, this is Sprues and Studs. Thank you for tuning into this review. I appreciate you watching it as well as giving this channel support. And also, if you are interested in getting these action figures, please click on the link below in the description of the video. And with that being said, I will see you guys all in the next one.